In that case, I'm going to get started with this. All right. Well, thank you everybody for coming. This is going to make this assignment so much easier because we're going to give you the background information to all of this, explain what to do, and honestly, it's just going to be fantastic. All right. So this activity is on The Crucible. The Crucible is a play by Arthur Miller, and to understand it, we kind of have to know the historical background to all of this. So, when the Crucible was taking place, it was taking place during the era of McCarthyism. So McCarthyism in this era was about 1950s, 1940s through 1950s, where people were terrified of the communist threat. So if you remember your history after World War II, we defeated the Nazis, actually with the help of the Soviet Union, but right after that started the Cold War. And the Soviet Union was a very terrible repressive regime, so there were reasons people were afraid of communism. But unfortunately, people took this fear, and in particular, this man right here, Senator McCarthy, took this fear and started to they kind of went out of control with it, to be perfectly honest. So what happened is that this man here led a program where if you, of course, were a communist, but also if you were associated with communism, if you were just left-leaning, if you, had things that were associated with Russia, they barred you from any position of influence. So we're talking about teaching positions, government positions, acting positions, even. And really, this was a thing where people had to think and believe in a certain way in order not to be oppressed. And they couldn't be associated. This is the big thing. They could be associated with people who acted differently. So it was a horrible repressive thing. And a big part of this was fear. And it kind of spiraled up and up and up and up. So this play was written in response to that, when the actors and whatnot were starting to feel this. And what the author did is he related McCarthyism to the witch trials back in Salem. So what our play is about, The Crucible, it's about the witch trials in Salem back in the 1690s, but it's really not about that, if that makes sense. It's really about McCarthyism. But this was a way, you couldn't really directly attack McCarthy at that time because he was immensely powerful. So this was a way to get around that and to talk about this issue without talking about the issue, if that makes sense. Well, in the Crucible, it follows a pretty, I wouldn't say straightforward plot, but the plot is basically start off with all these girls are found in the woods, dancing around. Some of them are naked, some of them are trying to fly. Basically acting crazy. And the parish, I guess, preacher finds them. Some live in his own house. He's the guardian of, and take them in. And the girls, they're worried that they're going to be accused of witchcraft. Incidentally, they actually were trying to practice witchcraft. They just weren't succeeding very well. Anyway, so they get all afraid, and they start making accusations. And it's as you go through the play, you start to learn the whole reason that they were trying to perform witchcraft was because one of them, Abigail, uh, was in love, or I wouldn't say love, was having an affair with a man in the town. I believe that's John Proctor. Yeah, John Proctor. Yeah. And she was trying to make a spell in order to have John Proctor's wife fall dead, and therefore, he'd be available. And there you go. Anyway, she's afraid, and as are the girls, of being accused of witchcraft. So she starts accusing other people of witchcraft, right? And the town starts going along with this. In particular, her uncle, who's the parish priest, very influential, he doesn't want to be accused of having witches in his house, so he goes along with pushing the blame off to other people. And you see a couple really interesting things happen in this play that are going to be really important in your analysis. What this, the theme of this play is about power, how not just power, but power and fear, and how that dynamic works when those two things come together. And you see three different dynamics going on in this play. The first one is the idea of hysteria and fear. So people become afraid of that there's a witch, or there's magic being practiced, and so they become very afraid, and they react by lashing out. And the awful thing about this is, and that you'll see in the play, is that when people become very emotionally charged, they start to interpret things in a way that supports that emotion, if that makes sense. If you ever had a fight with, well, if you ever had a fight with a parent or a friend, you'll notice that at a certain point, everything they say starts to get you angry, right? Well, in the same way, it's actually called the emotional refractory period. Well, in the same way, if you get really scared and really fearful, then every negative emotion becomes translated into fear, and you start to lash out. So that's what happens as this play develops of most people. People are afraid of witchcraft, they're lashing out. And as you can see earlier in the play, actually some people were trying to practice witchcraft, just not successfully. Anyway, that's the first dynamic. The second dynamic is that when in environments, so you have people who are honestly afraid, and then you have people who they're not afraid, but they like the power. And what you'll start to see as you're going through this play is the characters, particularly Abigail, realizes she can use this power to direct it against people that she doesn't like. And because everybody's afraid, everybody goes with it, right? And so that's the second dynamic of how people can take the fear of the general public and direct it, kind of pinpoint it, like a guided missile or something. So that's one thing. And you'll see how people start to use this fear for their advantage, to attack people. And then finally, you have the people being accused. And when things happen like this, you have this awful dynamic of, and this is a big thing that Arthur Miller really stresses, particularly in the end. Particularly, look at the last act, of people are given the option in this play and also in the McCarthy trials to say, okay, we won't punish you if you admit. If you admit to what you've done was wrong, then we'll let you go, right? And this actually happened with the McCarthy trials. That's one of the reasons it was so bad. So if you're willing to lie and go along with this, we'll let you live. Because these people, being accused of witch, your life on stake. Well, people will start going, I don't really believe in all this witchcraft stuff, but I don't want to get killed, right? So I'm just gonna go along with it. I'm gonna admit it, and I'm going to try to survive. And unfortunately, and this is the most ironic thing about the whole McCarthy thing, is that this was actually this tactic that Stalin was using in the Soviet Union. People would admit to crimes they hadn't committed in the hopes of getting a lighter sentence, but as a result, this regime became more and more powerful, and that's what was happening in the United States, and it's happening in this play right here. So those are the three things you're going to look for as you go through this play. First of all, how do people react when they get fearful in mass? Second, how do people use that fear for their own advantage? And then three, how notice how people go along with it because they themselves are afraid, and this lends legitimacy to the whole thing. All right. So with this, we've assembled. So for this activity, we've assembled some great resources for you to use. Um, you, if you click on the link that I sent you the PowerPoint, on the link here, I can send you this in the chat too. This is our English website. As you can see, you click on English 11B, Unit Activity Resources, and there are all of these great resources that you can use. There's the assignment here. There's some backstory about McCarthyism. There's a summary of the play in audio form. Fantastic. There is I believe there's the play itself. And check this. There's an audio version of the play, and there's actually the movie of the play. So you actually can just watch the movie. That's all you need to do. It's fantastic. Really, it is. And if you have any more questions or you like a different resource, just tell us and we'll put something else on there. Oh, by the way, very cool. We also put a meme generator at the end of that to help you with your final part of the activity. If you don't know what that is, we'll explain later. But it's very cool. All right. By the way, if you have any questions, make sure you send me a text. You can either do that through the application that you're using or through Google Hangouts. Either of those would be great. All right. Now, for our actual task or our actual assignment, our assignment has two parts. Now, the first part here is one that you're really going to want to do as you're watching the play, or listening to the play, or reading the play. It's going to be just so much easier to do it as you're listening. So, the first part is that you're going to fill out this this chart. This chart has a few questions. You can add some questions too if you like, if you have any questions. Then you have your analysis, which is basically an answer, and then you're going to use the textual evidence. So, what is the play about? And we've already done the first couple ones for you. Isn't that great? So, what is the play about? The play is about the witch trials taking place in Salem during the 1600s. So, for textual evidence, you'll want to go in. You'll want to open up actually the text in addition to the movie that you're watching as you're doing this, so you can copy and paste that textual evidence from the play itself, the lines, into this right here. So, and it will pretty much give you it as you go along. Very important, the external character and internal character development. That's something we're going to be really looking careful at. So, this is the first one. If you have any questions, be sure to ask, and I can help you out. But it's pretty straightforward. The trick is to do it as you're watching, as you're listening, having that text open as you're going through. Perfect. Now, as you're going through this, you're also going to want to be looking at the how the characters change, or what's their development, both with external and internal. Now, just to review, external character development or characteristics, what's happening in the world that's affecting them, right? So they're getting accused, they're accusing, they're getting money, they're losing money, they're dying. All of these things are very important external stuff, right? What happens outside world? Internal is also very important, but that's kind of the thoughts, feelings, and emotions that are happening inside of them. So we're going to look at these two things. And oftentimes, what's going to happen is the external characteristics are going to create a crisis of the internal characters. So they'll be faced with some sort of awful position, right? And then they will have to make a decision on that. So maybe they'll be accused of something, or they'll accuse somebody, and they'll have their reasons for doing that, right? External, internal. So as you're going through this, in addition to filling out this sheet, I also want you to pick one character to look at, to go through, and to see what external and internal characteristics are happening. What challenges do they face? Why is this an issue for their heart, for their mind? And then when they make a decision, how does that make them, well, does it make them a better person or a worse person? You'll want to look at Abigail Williams. She's the main girl who starts the witchcraft. Well, she's the one who actually tries to practice witchcraft, but then she starts accusing people of witchcraft. John Proctor. This is the person that Abigail was having an affair with. He doesn't want to let go. That fact is a secret. He doesn't want to share that with everybody. So that's one thing. And he's trying to fight against Abigail in the courts. And then finally, Reverend Samuel Parris. This is Abigail's uncle. He wants to defer blame away from his household onto the other people, and he also wants to maintain the situation. So take notes on these three people as you're going through, and you're going to be golden. Okay. And now finally, this is the last thing that you want to look at. So there's a knowledge article link. You might want to read this really quickly before you watch the play itself. And it's going to talk about the witch trials, the hearings, and their connection to the events in the play. So you're going to select a theme from the play and write 2 or 3 paragraphs analyzing this. Now, I looked through this, and I think that 3 themes that are really good to look at are persecution, power, and fear. How do people react to it? And a theme, really what you want for a theme is some observation of life. So some statement about persecution, some statement about power, some statement about fear, right? What truth are they trying to show about each of these? By the way, I think somebody has their thing unmuted, so I can hear. If you can mute yourself, that would be really helpful. Uh, in case you start giggling, that might be useful. All right. So, any questions on these first three? This first part A, B, C. Basically, you just do it as you're listening, as you're watching. That's all you have to do. Really, it's really easy if you're doing it while you're watching it, right? If you're doing it while you're reading it, it's going to be a lot easier because you'll just see things as these come up. So the first part's basically an annotated reading. That's all. All right. Part two. This is where things get fun. So in the part two, you are going to deal with a little bit of propaganda. So you're going to research your own propaganda, then make your own propaganda. So for the first part, you're going to find an example of modern propaganda, so a real piece of propaganda, and then that uses a technique that you see in the play. So it's important that we look at the techniques here of how these things are going on, and then see what's similar in a piece of propaganda that we can find. So for this, you're going to answer these three questions. What does each propaganda example attempt to accomplish? So it looks like you're going to find it in the play. Yep. In the play and modern example. So two right here. In the play, modern example. So what does the propaganda attempt in each, in the play and in the modern one, attempt to accomplish? How do they try to get their point across? These are going to be your appeals, right? Your emotional, logical, or ethical appeal. It's probably going to be mostly emotional and ethical. And then I'll explain that in a sec. And then finally, are the goals of the propaganda vastly different? If they so, how are they alike despite using the same technique? So you could find a piece of propaganda that you consider even positive. This one, a lot of people might consider positive. It's a propaganda piece to encourage people to join the army. So, many people support the army. I think that's great. But it is still a piece of propaganda. So, as you're looking at propaganda, a couple of things that you can look at would be things like authority, right? Appeal to authority, that's a good, strong thing. Honestly, this is a very official, this is after all, America himself, pointing at you. So that's one thing. Fear, that's another good one that people like to use. This might be harder to find in the in the play, but also appeals to beauty as well. When you want to feel something positive, often the propaganda can look very beautiful of the thing it's trying to support. Conversely, and this you may see in the play, you might see the thing of making something ugly, demonizing it. So those are three techniques that people use that are very effective. And you can just start by looking up, I like to look up these old posters because even though they're propaganda, they're great art, right? They're great art. So yeah, that's the first thing. Find an example from the play. Find an example, a modern example. Then go through these things. Does it use the same technique? How do they get it pointed across? Are they different? Whatnot. And you'll want to try to use something that uses the same technique if you can. All right. So then you get your own piece of propaganda. So you'll want to read this knowledge article. That'll give you examples of how to make propaganda. And then you're going to create your own. You'll want a slogan, and you'll use instead of a poster, what we're going to do, or what I invite you to do, is use this meme generator. So memes, if you don't know, are little online jokes. I mean, honestly, if I probably don't have to explain memes to you, but in case I do, I mean, you never know. So in case I do, just look up what a meme is. You get that. Anyway, so what you have is you have a picture and a saying right here. and we're going to have some sort of propaganda. And it can be something kind of fun. So you can either do propaganda for something that you honestly care about and you want to support. You can do propaganda about something that you're worried about and you actually don't like, because doing something that's actually negative will make you more aware of that kind of propaganda. So that's good. Or you could do something that's a little more, I think they could do something more fun, right? They could do something a little more fun like this. So if you really like a story or a video game, you could do propaganda to support an issue in that story or in that video game. So you could do something for Overwatch right here. If you could do like team. What was the Twilight people? Edward and Bella, yeah, or something like that. But the important thing is that you make it yourself. You make it yourself. So I want you to use that meme generator so we can get some hot, fresh memes right off the press. Uh, in addition to that, you're gonna explain what you used, how you used it, and that's pretty much all you have. The big thing is to just watch the Crucible. It's I think it's all in all, I think it's probably hour, 2 hours. I think it's about 2 hours. So it'll take a bit of time, but it's a movie. I mean, you know, cop answer the fill out this sheet as you're going through. Okay, you can find it. You can either copy it from the slides that were shared with you, or you can also find it on the instructions. Look at these three people, what internal, external flaws they have. Actually, just choose one of them. Really, just choose one of them, and then choose one of these themes, and then write about it. Every time you see something about persecution, write yourself a note. Right. So if you work with this as you're going through, it's going to be so much easier. So much easier. All right. So that's pretty much what we have so far. In addition to this, and I think you saw this on the flyer I sent out, if you need a little more help finishing all of this up, you can come into the library, or we can come into the digital office hours that we have at 11 o'clock. So you can tune in just like now. We'll turn on with Wednesday, sorry, Wednesday. Wednesday, 11 o'clock, you can tune in and we'll help you out. When you do come in for help, I think it would be best to first watch the movie and do the annotation. That's going to make things a little bit easier for both you and your teacher. But yeah, you can come into the library. Um, you know, the dates are sent out to you, and that's pretty much it. In fact, let me send out. Let me see if I can do this. Wish me luck. A poll of how you guys would like to get help, because honestly, it's kind of a two-part. First you do it, you get it all out there, and then with writing, we like to edit it a little bit, and that's where the additional help comes in. So let me see if I can. Let's see if it works. Let's see. Here we go. Let me see if I can send you guys a poll on what kind of help you would like. Sharing Chrome. Share application. Stop sharing. Okay. Oh, cool. You guys did respond. Perfect. Okay. So let me see. Let's see. I'll make a poll. Okay. Let's see. Record. Poll. By the way, before I make the poll, now that I can see your guys' chat, is there anything that you'd like me to go over real quick? This is for you guys. If you have any questions, concerns, and really anything, now is your time. And if you have a question, probably other people will have a question. So, go ahead and either ask me what question you have, or just type in, nope, all good, understand everything. So either type in, you understand everything, or type in whatever question that you have. Polling. Fantastic. Thank you, Matthew. All right. And does anyone else want to be as awesome as Matthew? Thank you, Alyssa. Thank you, Yatsiri. Thank you. Very awesome. Very awesome. Awesomeness all around. Ba-da-doo. And anyone else? Anyone else? And even if you just send in like, yeah, I understand everything, that's really helpful on my end. No, don't think I'm gonna do. No, that's gonna. All right. Very cool. Very cool. All right. Oh, I guess we only have 3 people here. Okay. Okay. Excellent. So, what I'd like you to do now is I'd like you to type in how you'd like to get help next. Would you like to do it through the library? Would you like it done through digital office hours? It'll be kind of like this format. Or would you like to do it through contacting an English teacher? Thank you. Contacting an English teacher. So those are your 3 options. So if you'd like additional help, real quick, let us know what kind of additional help you would like. Would you like English teacher, digital office hours, or going into the library? Which one? Oh, for the where? Oh, Alyssa, sorry, I didn't see your question. Okay, should everything be put on the same Google Doc and then turn in? Yeah, that'd be useful. That'd be useful. I would. And if you contact an English teacher, they'll give you a template and they'll set that all up for you. So yeah, perfect. Thank you, Matthew. English teacher or going to the library. Okay, perfect. Yep, both of those are excellent options. Okay. By the way, Alyssa, what library do you usually go to? Is that Rolando, Chula Vista, or contact the English teacher? Excellent, excellent. That sounds good. That sounds good. And remember, guys, I just show it to an English teacher before you submit. We're always happy to help, and we'll tell you what grade we would give it. Usually, yeah, we'll just tell you, yeah, I'd grade this with a, give it, this, and you can decide if you like it. Hopefully you will, and if not, we'll make the small little changes in order to help you out. All right. Well, thanks a lot, everybody, for trying this out. Have an excellent day, and be sure to give us a contact if you have any questions. Bye for now.